Hello friends and welcome back to What's Up Philippines! We have a new reaction video today and we are learning something new, something very interesting. I just saw the intro and the title and I was like, okay, this is a video for us. The Philippines economy is growing massively. How massively? We'll find out in this video, but I'm very excited to watch it with you guys. Without further ado, let's just jumpstart into it.
The Philippine economy is amongst the fastest growing in the entire world. A lot of people, however, probably doubt that. There has been news over the past few years, and even for the past few decades, that the Philippine economy has performed poorly against its neighbors. The Philippines had once a higher gross domestic product per capita than Vietnam and Indonesia. Yet these two countries have surpassed the Philippine economy. Data from the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, shows that the GDP per capita of the Philippines for 2023 stands at a measly figure of $3,86,000, whereas Vietnam has over $4,32,000 and Indonesia at $5,11,000. These neighbors, which are also amongst the fastest growers over the past few decades, have overshadowed the Philippines. But that's the problem. Comparing these nations to the Philippines have led us to believe that the country has stagnated. They are not growing, at least not as much as these fast growers. However, let me tell you why the Philippine economy has actually been leading in economic growth over the past few years. You see, the Philippines started growing very fast in 2010, the very year where the world has started picking up growth again after the 2008 financial crisis. Now, one should not attach politics too much to the Philippine economy since 2010. A lot of analysts would arguably point out that the previous administration of Benigno Aquino had ensured that the Philippine economy became one of the fastest in Asia. Hence, it received many accolades that his administration helped push the economy to become a rising tiger from being a sick man of Asia. And that is the issue with attaching domestic politics to global growth. Sometimes a country's economy can grow not just because of the current sitting president and their team, but due to the economy of the world. Let's get back to the economic figures. In 2010, the Philippine economy staged a growth of 7.3%, which is higher than the global average of 5.5% and higher than the advanced economies of 3.2%. Only emerging markets and developing economies had posted similar growth of 7.3% to the Philippines. To put it simply, the Philippine economy grew at a rate that is similar to emerging markets and developing economies. Now, these emerging markets and developing economies are basically countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, India, and China. The great part of Aquino's administration was that it sustained good growth.
Very important is good, steady growth.
Higher than the average experienced by emerging markets and developing economies. In 2012, the Philippines grew at 6.9%, higher than the developing economies of 5.4%.
That's good.
In 2013, it grew to 6.8%, again higher than the developing economies of 5%. The Philippines continued to grow much faster until 2016, which saw the end of his tenure. The only year the Philippines grew at a subtle pace was in 2011. When it posted a 3.9% growth, lower than the developing economies. What happened in 2019? This is where things become quite confusing. When the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte came, the Philippine economy slowed down. The Philippines was growing at a rate of nearly 7% every year from 2010 to 2016.
That's a good percentage.
The tenure of Benigno Aquino. When Duterte became the president in 2016, his administration saw a slowing economy. In 2018, the economy grew at 6.3%. Then in 2019, at 6.1%. There were loads of news articles and analysts pointing out Duterte's failure to keep this nearly 7% growth rate. But did you know that when Duterte became president, so did Donald Trump? The U.S. president was in office from 2017 to 2021. His presidency had established what was known as a trade war with China. A trade war with China has led to several issues globally. This led to a slower global growth. That is because increased tariffs can lead to higher costs for consumers and businesses, as well as supply chain disruptions. Products that were once cheap due to globalization condition might see a sharp increase in price. Secondly, the uncertainty caused by a trade war creates a challenging environment for businesses to plan their future investments. Companies are less likely to invest in new projects or expand their operations if they cannot predict future trade conditions. This hesitancy can slow down economic growth as businesses hold back on spending.
Yeah.
Additionally, when tariffs are imposed, countries often retaliate with their own tariffs, leading to a reduction in trade volume. Lower trade volumes can hurt economies that are heavily dependent on exports. And for the Philippines, a nation that has intertwined its economy significantly with global trade, the impact of the US-China trade war was particularly pronounced. The country's exports include electronics, machinery, and agricultural products, sectors vulnerable to disruptions in global trade
Very true.
dynamics. The slowing down of the Chinese economy, a major trade partner for the Philippines, directly affected Filipino exports. Moreover, the uncertainty surrounding the trade war likely affected foreign direct investments, which are crucial for emerging economies like the Philippines. Yet, despite these, the Philippine economy actually became one of the fastest in the entire world. In
How
both
are they the fastest in
2018
the
and
world?
2019, the Philippine economy grew at a rate of 6.3 and 6.1% respectively. Developing economies, however, only posted a growth rate of 4.6 and 3.6% respectively.
Yeah, it's always good to see things in perspective, right? So if you say 6.3, it went down to 6.1. If you see it on a global scale, it makes such a huge difference.
The world average was also very low at 3.6 and 2.8%
Wow.
respectively. This just goes to show
bad.
that the Philippine economy under Duterte performed very well, despite all the naysayers and critics out there. But that's not where it ends. We can't end it by being very optimistic about his presidency. It was not perfect. In 2020, the Philippine economy suffered a 9.5% contraction, which was one of the world's worst. Developing economies only suffered a 1.8% contraction, and even advanced economies, which were supposed to fare worse, only experienced a 4.2%. Now, there are certain explanations to why this is. The first is because the Philippines economy is heavily reliant on sectors that were significantly affected by the
That is very
COVID-19
true, though.
pandemic. One of the main contributors to the country's economy is the service sector, including tourism, hospitality, and retail.
Huge.
With the onset of the pandemic, international and local travel restrictions, as well as social distancing measures, severely impacted.
Yeah, and I was in the Philippines during the pandemic, and I am not kidding if I'm saying like it was extreme measures. So I understand why it had such a huge effect.
These industries. Another reason is the strict and prolonged lockdown measures implemented in the Philippines. The government imposed one of the longest and most stringent lockdowns in the world to curb the spread of the virus. While necessary for public health, these measures resulted in business closures, job losses, and reduced economic activities, contributing to the substantial economic downturn. And furthermore, the Philippine economy's limited diversification also played a role. Unlike some other economies that were able to pivot more easily to digital or other less affected sectors, the Philippines struggled to compensate for the losses in its key sectors. And that is amongst the explanations why, post-COVID, the Philippine economy rebounded strong. In 2021, it posted a rate of 5.7%, although still slower than developing economies and the world average. The strong rebound was seen in 2022, when the country grew at 7.6%, this time faster than developing
7.6
economies.
is not bad.
It took 2 years for the country to once again reclaim its title as one of the fastest growing.
Okay, so I remember talking to a friend, and he used to live in Canada, and he said, you know what, like economic is going downhill, I might move back to Canada. And nevertheless, he stayed in the Philippines and did so well, like so well, and I'm happy for him, really.
Then again, for the very same observation in 2023, the Philippine economy grew at 5.3%. That is a huge drop from 7.6%, but that should not change our perspective, as the Philippines had a higher rate than developing economies at 4%. This is the concept that we must always apply. The concept that domestic politics may not always have a role in the Philippine economy. Sure, they do influence economic policies, but there are other factors out there that are very crucial to the economy of the Philippines. Just take a look at the role of overseas Filipino workers, OFW, which have been a consistent source of economic stability. These remittances, which form a significant part of the GDP, help fuel domestic consumption and investment, thus cushioning the economy against external shocks. Another factor that has been crucial and is subject to global trends is the business process outsourcing, or BPO, which has become a major contributor to the GDP. The BPO industry not only generates foreign exchange earnings, but also creates millions of jobs, contributing to the reduction of unemployment and underemployment. But obviously, we can't simply say that the Philippines government is useless when it comes to dictating the country's economy. They have a role within their economy, but it's more about regulation and sometimes incentives. Their main purpose is to set the rules of the game for businesses, aiming to ensure fair competition, consumer protection, and environmental sustainability. They can also put out tax incentives for certain industries, import-export regulations, and monetary policies, greatly influencing the business environment. And sometimes, as we have seen in the Philippines, they can push state-led infrastructure projects, development programs, and support for key industries. So most of what really happens in an economy lies within the corporate sector. These are businesses like San Miguel Corporation, but it can also be the normal restaurant you go to. They all play a role, and the Philippine government just needs to ensure that there are certain policies placed that ensure consumers are protected and are not overpaying. They also need to ensure that there are available transportation options for you to become a consumer. But anyway, do let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, do let me know what you think about it. I personally have seen crazy growth in the Philippines. I can feel that it is the rising tiger, and it is, in fact, as you said, the fastest growing economy in the world. Well done. So yeah, definitely interesting video. Let me know what you think about it, and I will see you guys next time here. What's up, Philippines? Bye-bye.